Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Yu Yu Hakusho. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Before I get really into breaking down the episode, I want to preface this. I talked about this during my my discussion of the teaser trailer, but if you didn't see it, my experience with Yu Yu Hakusho, I've never read the manga. I've watched some of the anime, but it's been a very, 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 very long time, so I won't remember everything. I remember bits and pieces here and there. I'd probably say up to, I consider the Dark Tournament like the second biggest arc. Like, that might be like, not the second big arc of the series. That's probably as good as my memory gets, because after that, it's super vague. I think I've seen the final episode, because some of the later arcs, I've seen bits and pieces, but not the entirety of them. But I know how the series ends. I also don't know how the manga and the anime compare, whether or not like quite a bit was changed for the anime, or whether it's overall a very faithful adaptation to anime in particular. But because I noticed some things here and there at the beginning. I'm like, I don't remember that at all, but we'll kind of get to it when we get to it as I'm breaking stuff down. But we open up with Yusuke getting hit and, dying, because we ultimately end up finding out what the context is. I love like the 4-hour rewind where we find out, okay, so we get introduced to Yusuke. He's kind of the bad boy delinquent, but he's the misunderstood delinquent, because he's kind of a Yankee. But the fact of the matter is, he has a heart of gold, because he comes through when, one of the other students is getting bullied. He steps in, but every teacher like assumes the worst in him, and he doesn't bother explaining, because it's like, right, you already have made up your mind about who I am, so it's just going to take more time. And then the person who backs him up is Kiko, his childhood friend. So, and obviously we get a little touch of him and Kuwabara, which I think it's interesting they decided not to go like full accuracy with Kuwabara making him a redhead. If you don't know, they didn't, because if you're unaware, if you've never like seen Yu Yu Hakusho, like the anime, I'd assume the same character designs exist in the manga. I'm sure it's just a transfer over, but Kuwabara has a red pompadour, so his hair looks like corn on a cob a little bit, doesn't it? Or I might be like, because I might be conflating it a little bit with Mondo from Danganronpa, but I'm fairly sure from my memory Kuwabara had definitely had red hair, but I'm pretty sure that was like a pompadour. They don't really do that. It's kind of blondish. In certain lighting, it looks a little darkish and reddish, but I think it looks very blondish. So I thought that was an interesting choice. We even saw it with One Piece. They didn't go for one-to-one character designs in some regards. So, but yeah, him and Kuwabara, their little rivalry. We don't know why they have the rivalry that they do, but I love Kuwabara's literally getting his ass handed to him, and he's like, "No, I can keep fighting." And his squad is like, "No, stop it, Kuwabara. It's you didn't lose. You put up a great fight. Also, your rival, like, he's already gone." And it's like, really? And then he finally just passes out. Obviously, Yusuke's got a complicated relationship with his mom. It's just kind of like, right, if you might as well just drop out if you're just going to keep skipping school, go and kind of be a responsible adult instead of the screw up. It's like, yeah, sure, Mom. I feel like it's not as contentious as I remember it being. Obviously, there's love, and we get more of that as the episode progresses, but there's love between him and his mom. It's just, it's complicated. His mom, doing the best she can as a single mom, and Yusuke just being the rebellious delinquent, like I said, delinquent with a heart of gold. It was kind of sad when Keiko was just kind of like, because obviously he keeps calling her ugly. I know they have that secret, jump, it's shonen, so it's the typical, childhood friends thing, but I don't remember. I mean, maybe that's like a translated thing. I'm curious. Like the whole thing of him calling her ugly. I'm like, I don't remember that. I know like how he acted towards her, but I don't remember. I mean, to be fair, that might be one of those things, because I've only heard the English dub, because that's what I watched back in the day with Yu Yu Hakusho. So I don't know if that might be a translating thing where like they just never leaned into that. Maybe they did. But the moment those words left her mouth, like, "Go die," you're just like, yeah, she's going to end up regretting that. What I thought was interesting, once again, and this right here kind of speaks on some of the changes I thought was interesting. Yusuke saves the kid just like he does in the anime, but what's interesting, and they don't talk about this later on. They refer to it as an anomaly, but they don't go into specifics, and I'm curious will they kind of do that later on. I even talked about this in my discussion for the teaser trailer. Was there in the anime, Yusuke kind of sacrificed his life for the kid for nothing, because Botan's like, yeah, the kid would have actually been fine. He would have gotten away with a few scrapes. The car would have never actually hit him. So you kind of died for nothing. But hey, you still did a good thing, and that's all that matters. So it's kind of, it was fruit, like that was a bit. But in this, because for one, the driver is, I thought it was just a regular vehicle. I don't think it was a truck. Because for one, it's a lot more brutal in this, because you see him get hit and run over by the truck. I was like, Jesus. Because I remember, I saw in the teaser trailer, like, the truck was, like, knocked over. For one, I was like, I'm pretty sure it was a car. Maybe it wasn't like a full truck like that, but it was a smaller vehicle to my recollection, because I remember Yusuke, like, bouncing off the hood. Like, he hits the hood and the windshield and flies off of it, not gets run over like that. Once again, that's where I was talking about, I don't know if, like, the manga's a little darker than the anime. Sometimes that happens with adaptations. We're also talking about something from the 90s, so maybe when they were adapting it, they didn't want it to be as dark. Or maybe it's just a one-for-one of, like, that is what happened, and maybe they spruced it up a little. Because I know One Piece, at the very least, it's following the manga a little closer rather than the anime adaptation. So maybe, you know, Yu Yu Hakusho could be in the same boat of, like, right, it's sticking closer to the manga. But we're also, once again, talking about something I don't remember that well. But, yeah, they don't mention, like, oh, the kid would have been fine. It's like, he gets away with a few scrapes and he's fine, sure, but Botan never mentions, like, oh, like, all she says is it's an anomaly because someone like you shouldn't have died, because it was like a 1 in 100 chance that you would do something like that, because it was kind of set that, like, oh, you were very set in stone on who you are, that you breaking out of the mold of who you would be. But I mean, we also saw he's capable of good. He just kind of goes about things the wrong way sometimes. But yeah, that was interesting. But also tying it in with the yokai, making it that the driver was possessed. That was not the case at all. It was just a regular accident to my recollection. Not unless I feel like I would have, I mean, once again, it's been forever, but I feel like I would have remembered if it was like yokai or demon related. I think it was just purely an accident. And it kind of was in this case, but it's like, no, the driver was possessed by what they call it, a roundworm monster. So they kind of throw a lot at you pretty fast. Like, Yusuke's, like, super accepting of it. Like, oh, I guess I'm dead. And she's like, Botan's like, wow. Also, I really like the effect of how when she goes to the spirit world and when she pops back into the human world, that, like, that shimmer effect on her, like that bluish out. I really like that effect. I don't know. I don't know. I just really like the way that effect looks, live action wise. But she's like, oh, you really understand all this? I was like, I feel like I don't. That has to be like a live action tweak to, like, she has this card about Yusuke and he's up there saying, like, oh, you want to fight? It's supposed to be a representation of who he is personality wise. Oh, gambling, fighting, smoking, all the terrible things he's done. It's supposed to be like a rundown of who Yusuke is as a character and as a person in general. And I like it's almost like this 3D card where you see, like, his face is kind of like it's almost looks like AR technology, which I thought was kind of an interesting aspect, because I definitely don't remember that from the anime. So I thought that was just such an interesting effect to have that, to be like, oh, here's your card of, like, all this information, and then her, like, shifting them over into the spirit world, because he only wanted to check to make sure the kid was okay. He was like, oh, okay, cool, take me to hell or whatever. But it's like, no, you're not going to heaven or hell. We're going to the spirit world so we can check stuff out. My boss Inma wants to see you. It's Koema, Inma Jr. And I brought this also up in the teaser trailer. I was like, wait, are we not doing the baby form thing? I did distinctly remember that there is, I forgot what the circumstances were, like why he switches between them. Like, he's in his baby form, like, most of the time, except, I guess, like, to access his full power, he needs to be in his quote-unquote adult form. But I'm wondering if they're not going to do the baby form at all, or is it going to be a thing we see later on? But yeah, Yusuke was kind of fine with just dying, because he's like, right, everyone's lives are better off without me. he knows like I'm just kind of a drag to everyone around me. So what's the point of going back? When Koema was like, "Yo, I want you to be my spirit detective." I also love that display of like, right, when you look at the contents of an entire person's life, and Koenma decides whether or not that person goes to heaven or hell, and it's just like, right, you have a giant scroll that goes through your entire like life. I was just like, I loved how that was represented, and we saw one person go into heaven, one person go into hell, and Yusuke getting offered the job. I do like that we do get a little bit of like, from what I can remember about Yusuke and Botan's relationship, like him kind of like bullying her a little bit. Also, it doesn't seem like, I'm curious if we're going to get the broomstick thing, because she's like she flies around on a broomstick like a witch. That's how she gets around. It does not seem like they're going to do that at all. They're just going to like, yeah, she pops in, she pops out. Not unless that's something that happens in a future episode. I'd also brought it up in the teaser. I was like, I remember her hair being a little more bluish, like tealish. Well, kind of sky bluish, but it didn't look like that in the trailer, because in the teaser, it's that scene in the spirit world when they're talking to Koenma. It looks darker under that. It looks more silverish under that lighting, but when you're in like daytime, and like, oh, it looks bluish. So it's like it's just a lighting situation that made it look different. But Yusuke goes back to Earth and sees, like, right, how hurt his mom is, how hurt Keiko is. Even the fact is, his rival Kuwabara misses him, being like, you bastard, how dare you win the fight, and then, like, it's sleazy to win the fight and go off and die. And even Yusuke's like, wow, even though we butt heads, even you miss me, you idiot. The guy he had helped at school came to kind of leave a kind of donation to Yusuke in honor of what he did, but the bullies catch up to him, and then Kuwabara got in the way, because it's like, here you are running your mouth, doing a whole bunch of like stupid shit at Yusuke's funeral. Like, you're a piece of shit for disrespecting people at a funeral type of thing. And the mom and the son that Yusuke saved, it's like, oh, like, thank you, Yusuke. And mom, like, I want to come back when he wakes up, and that way I get to tell him thank you to his face, because boy doesn't understand death, and his mom doesn't really know how to bring it up to him. So seeing all this firsthand, like seeing how Keiko's reaction, seeing how his mom's reacting, I was like, right, might not mean much in the grand scheme of things, but my life did matter to some people, does matter to some people. So it gave him reason to want to come back when he found out like just how heartbroken Keiko is, because she blamed herself. It's like, because I said what I said. But Yusuke's mom's like, Yusuke, he would never let something like that, he was too stubborn to ever listen to him, so he would never follow you, he would never like hold that to heart. Because they talked a little bit about, once again, just Yusuke's character. The last time they were around Yusuke like this was he was sick, because he jumped into a river to get back her hat that fell in. And so Keiko blamed herself. It's like, just like back then, that was my fault. This is my fault too. But Yusuke's mom tries to reassure, and it's like, here they are, both heartbroken. And for Yusuke, it shows like, okay, so are they better off without me? Because if I remember correctly, didn't his mom, and I could be mistaken, didn't his mom drink a lot, at least based on the anime? So like their relationship was a little tumultuous, but I think he did actually take care of his mom. And it's like, I think that was a point of the story too, of like, once again, you're speeding past a lot of stuff with a live adaptation, like you're cutting through a lot of stuff. But I was like, what in the whole thing of he actually did take care of his mom, he looked after her, and she didn't really look after herself now that he was gone, if I remember correctly. But like I said, I could be making that up. Also, like, the whole process of coming back to life, that was a whole thing. Once again, not unless that's some filler stuff at the beginning of the series, but I don't remember the ins and outs, but he had to go through some stuff to get, because I remember, like, right, they had to do this whole process. Didn't he have to do stuff as a spirit to help people? And I forgot how the whole thing works, but it's about preserving his body, because he actually stays dead for a while, doesn't he? I could be totally misremembering. Like, I thought Yusuke stayed dead for a decent amount of time. Like, he's dead maybe like a day at best, but I could have sworn he was dead for like a little while. Because I was like, didn't his hair grow out while he was dead? because he was gone that long, his hair was still growing. Oh, God, I don't remember. Because I know at certain points in the series, that might just be like his hair isn't swooped back, and when it falls down, it looks longer. But I could have sworn there was moments it grew out in that particular situation because he was gone that long period of time. But I remember the whole thing of like, right, he has to get to his body in a certain amount of time because his body's still warm, as his mom discovers later on. It's like, oh my God, I can still feel a pulse. My son's warm. But at that point, Koeman had already started the revival process. So I was like I said, I don't remember what went into it, but both times I was like, yeah, there needs to be preparations. But we never got to see into that. But I do remember it being kind of an extensive process to get used. Because I'm trying to remember, like, how much of his spirit detective stuff did he go through? Because I could have sworn he did stuff as a spirit, but I'm like, I don't remember how much of that had to deal with him as a spirit detective. Because I'm like, because obviously he doesn't get to the... I can't remember if all that was post coming back to life, or was that pre coming back to life, the spirit energy and learning to control it stuff. Like I said, don't remember. The poor guy that was getting bullied ends up getting possessed by the roundworm, and it starts attacking all the bullies, and Kuwabara comes in to kind of slow things down because like a bike explodes, and now because the houses are so close together and the buildings are so close together, the fire starts spreading. And obviously, if Yusuke's body isn't taken care of, if it dies and burns, he will die too. Because I remember there was a situation where his body could have burned, but I believe Keiko does save him. I just don't remember what the situation was. I don't remember if it's like his mom was smoking and a fire started, or what it was. But I distinctly remember like his body was in danger of being burned, but it wasn't this whole situation that is in the show. Because they like, I mean, for one, things feel like way bigger because the fire was spreading to so many buildings, and obviously it all revolved around one yokai. Well, I mean, it's one guy that's being possessed by one, but it's like if it stays in his body too long, he becomes a yokai, a demon fully. It also answered a question I had in the teaser too. I was like, wasn't demon stuff like invisible to the normal human eye? Because like the bugs, yeah, it's like the moment it flies on someone and possesses them, like they don't feel. I was like, aren't you going to swat it? I was like, right, they don't feel it, they don't see it, because the human world and the demon world used to be the same, but now they were separated because of the spirit world. And I think that's why, like, unless you have like a spiritual connection and energy, you won't be able to see the demons. So Keiko tries to save Yusuke, but I think the smoke and inhalation kind of got, the heat and the smoke got to her, so she passes out, and Yusuke just subconsciously stops the beam from falling on top of them and tells Koema, it's like, fine, I'll do whatever you say, I'll listen to you, I'll be whatever you need me to be, just let me get back in my body so I can protect Keiko, because if she dies, I will have no reason to come back. So gets in his body and carries her out, but immediately has to go off and deal with the demon, which it's like, right, it didn't need you telling me Koema, I would have dealt with it myself. I should also note, I really love the choreography of this show, just like how it moves. It feels like, I don't know. Because I'm trying to, like, I think they do a good job of blending in them, like, more, like, just like the fight sequence between Yusuke. Like, we see a little bit here and there, like, with his fight with Kuwabara, but it's like, just seeing that whole sequence, and like, it plays out kind of like a very, like, grounded, I mean, obviously there's, like, a little supernatural element to it with just some of the movement, but still, like, there's grounded element to it, especially, like, when he wraps it up, and just, that whole fight sequence was just, like, beautifully choreographed, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because that's what I was also trying to figure out too. I was like, is he going to pull out the spirit gun? It's like, well, he doesn't know enough about spiritual energy. Koema's trying to explain it, but it's like, I'm not trying to hear that. Like, there's no time to really explain it, and just tell me what to do. But putting up a good fight just using his fist, because, I mean, Yusuke is a good fighter, so doing his best to kick this thing's ass, but he's also pleading to the guy inside, like, right, fight this thing off. Like, I saw what you were doing. You're trying to stand up to those bullies. You're stronger than you think, so don't let this insect take control of you. And he was fighting back. He was taking control of his body. So Yusuke ends up summoning spirit energy and just, like, literally punching the creature out and then squishing it with his bare hands. Pretty awesome. Got severely jacked up. Because I know the anime cover, there was blood in the anime, but we're also talking about, like, obviously I think this show is rated MA, so it's definitely going to get a lot more bloody and more foul mouthed and stuff. I think it's so interesting too because, I mean, I think that's also something that should be considered. Like, I mean, the manga might have been a little more bloody than, like, maybe the anime was, because it's like, right, the anime came out in the 90s, so did the manga, but you probably get away with a little bit more on that in the manga side. We're also talking about the US version of it, because I should also think about that too. As we know, a lot can change with adaptations, like certain things, like using One Piece, going from Sanji smoking a cigarette to it being a lollipop. So things are edited, so who knows, like, maybe, because I definitely remember things getting bloody for Yu Yu Hakusho, but who knows how much of that might have still gotten toned down. It was never, like, crazy bloody, but there was still some blood here and there. I totally don't remember the giant hole in the city storyline either. I'm like, is that something I'm supposed to remember? Because the business guy seems like he's kind of like the quote-unquote main antagonist. We saw, based on the teaser, that Torgo works for that guy, but I'm like, I don't remember this guy at all. Like, he probably is someone significant, but I remember Torgo being hired by someone, but I didn't remember by who, and this guy seems significant because he knows about it leading to the demon world. He even tells a guy about it, and because the hole belonged to another guy, and the moment he said it, the guy wasn't like, oh, you're crazy, oh, because he's like, what are you going to do with the hole? It's like, yeah, like, you know, it goes down forever and ever into the demon world, and the guy just kind of stared at him like almost like he knew what he was talking about. Maybe he was just looking at him like he was crazy, but he didn't say like, oh man, you're, like, he didn't say anything. He just kept staring. So this guy knows about the demon world and just what he's trying to get out of the hole. I have no idea. I should also point out something else I thought was interesting. Koima did bring up the fact is they have not had a spirit detective in a long time since Yusuke's predecessor. It's a kind of spoiler, but not really, because I don't remember enough. But if I'm not mistaken, that is a future arc, if not the second to last arc in the anime. And that's one of those later arcs I only saw bits and pieces of. I never saw that entire arc. Obviously, Yusuke's first assignment as a spirit detective wasn't as smooth sailing. It all worked out in the end. Granted, there's still a lot of destruction in the wake, and you probably want to minimize that going forward into the future. But, you know, you scraped by somehow. But yeah, the next thing he's supposed to work on is the items, which I completely forgot about until Koimo showed him the bow tie. I was like, oh my god, the items, right. Because I didn't remember the third dude. I remember, you know, their names didn't come up, but it is what it is, so I'm not going to dance around it. Kurama and Hiei. But Kurama, I remember what he does with his item. It looks like it's a book. I remember what his was. His is actually his reasons for it, getting that item, are actually really sweet and endearing. Like, unlike, well, Hiei does what he's doing for power. But I don't remember the other dude at all. I definitely distinctly remember Hiei getting the dagger and Kurama getting, like, something else. And I could have sworn he got the spear. Did he always get the book? Or does he have the book and then he gets the spear later on? Like, I don't remember, like, Yusuke ends up beating the other guy who seems to have gotten a spear, and then Kurama takes it to do what he needs to do. Like I said, it's actually very sweet reasons why he does what he does. Not unless that gets changed, but I highly doubt it, because it still it's fundamental of, like, letting you know who Kurama is as a character. But we do get to see them kind of do their thing as they kind of slice through, like, demons. Hiei rushing through with the sword. Once again, just kind of the choreography for that, and even Kurama and the Rose Whip. I wonder if they're going to follow the One Piece model and I'm so curious, like, are they going to call out moves in this or not? Because I'm curious, I'd assume at least Yusuke would, but I don't know if Hiei or Kurama will. Because he didn't say it but in this episode, but it could easily, because I know, like, when he summons, like, his Rose Whip, like, he does say something, doesn't he? Because I don't remember all that Kurama does. Because I know later stuff with Kurama, transformation-wise, I remember that a little bit. Hiei a little bit, but not quite as, like I said, there's just so much stuff that's a blank spot for me when it just comes to this series. either way, they got the items at the end of the episode, and this is going to be the next thing for Yusuke to investigate. I'm so curious to see what the breakdown of this is going to be, because at the time we recorded, there's only 5 episodes, which I'm like, wait, was this season only going to be 5 episodes, or did it, because I didn't see anything that said this season was going to be split. I wonder, is it split, or is it just, that's all that season 1 is? I was like, that's such a weird number for one. Such an odd number like 5 is so interesting. You'd expect maybe 8 or 10, at least 8 like One Piece, but even One Piece was supposed to be 10, but Netflix kind of cut them off at 8. But either way, I'd have to look into that. Not unless that's like because I got to it so early, there's only 5 episodes up, but there's going to be more later. Either like, they're going to get uploaded later at a month or so from now, or maybe it's always been 5. I have no idea. But my point with that is, so we're going to be expediting through stuff, because I know Toguro shows up at one point, because that's in the teaser. So I'm like, okay, so I'd assume, so I guess that would mean like Kurama and Hiei and all that is not going to, that must all get solved in, I'd assume episode 2 resolves all of that immediately then. Because they do have set up pre-Dark Tournament. So I'm like, is that, how far are they going to go with this? And then that must mean like a lot of stuff gets squeezed into these episodes. I guess I'll find out, obviously, when I watch the other episodes. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm so curious to know how other people are feeling about it. But for a first episode, I really liked it. So I'm really excited to ultimately see where the rest of the season takes us. Once again, I am in a unique spot where I know a little bit about Yu Yu Hakusho, just a tiny bit, but I don't have like a clear enough picture in my head to make a complete and utter compare and contrast between the anime and the live action, like I said, because I've never read the manga and it's been so long with the anime, so I don't have a clear enough picture. So it's almost like watching it for the first time again. At least even One Piece, I might not have remembered the beginning enough, but I did, I have enough memory of like later arcs and stuff that I could still compare and contrast if I don't remember every story beat and element of early stuff. But either way, that's a whole other conversation. But either way, I'm excited to continue this and see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.